People with real power don't look twice without a reason. If their gaze returns to you, you've already taken up space in their mind. That idea alone is enough to unsettle anyone who hoped you'd never reach that level. Someone influential noticed you, and not in a passing way. It didn't begin with an introduction, a conversation, or something you tried to earn. It began the moment your presence disrupted their sense of control. Think of it this way. Powerful individuals move through life like scanners. They read environments instantly, filter out the ordinary, and only lock in when something feels like an unexplainable signal. And you became that signal. Here's the part that hits your critics the hardest. You weren't even trying. While they were chasing attention, you drew it just by being there. You didn't perform. You didn't seek validation. You didn't audition for approval. You simply stepped into the same world as everyone else. But the impact you created was different. There's a reason for that. The human mind is naturally drawn to what breaks patterns. When something doesn't match its surroundings, it becomes impossible to overlook. That's what you are. Something outside the expected pattern. You shift the energy of a space without effort. That's why someone powerful felt their focus pull toward you instantly, like a force they couldn't control. And understand this. People at that level don't give their attention lightly. They don't look twice unless something compels them. They don't replay moments unless something reaches deeper than logic. Yet somehow, you stayed on their mind. While they should be focused on their ambitions, their strategy, their next move, you became part of their thoughts. Something about you bypassed their defenses and made them pause. And when someone who is used to reading everyone suddenly can't read you, it unsettles them. It throws off their balance. It challenges their pride. It exposes the weak spots they didn't even know they had. Thank you, Chosen One. Don't forget to pay this message back by pressing like and subscribe, so this light reaches more souls. You're part of a mission now, part of a force that lifts others who need this reminder. And thank you for being here, Chosen One. Your presence matters. Now, let's come back to what's actually happening. Someone with serious power didn't just notice you. They locked onto you. And this isn't random attraction or curiosity. It's obsession born from two things you carry that most people don't. You triggered something in them that isn't easy to shake off. Think about how unusual that is. These types of people are trained to stay detached. They're used to seeing through everyone, decoding motives, predicting outcomes. Yet, when you showed up, something didn't add up for them. You challenged their instincts. You made them question themselves, even if they're trying to hide it. Most people get one look and disappear from memory. You got one look and stayed. You lingered. You echoed. And when someone with power can't explain why they can't forget you, it creates a chemical reaction in their mind. The universe loves patterns, but it loves exceptions even more. You're the exception, the standout, the one that doesn't fit the normal formula. And powerful people are drawn to anomalies like that because it threatens their sense of control. This sudden fixation they have on you came from two sharp realizations. Two things they saw in you that made everything else fade into the background. And once those two things clicked in their mind, it was over. You went from someone in the room to someone they need to figure out. That's how obsession starts. Not with drama, not with games, but with an unexpected moment where someone realizes they're no longer the one in control of their own attention. You proved something without opening your mouth. You carry a type of energy that cannot be faked. You have a way of standing out even when you're quiet. You leave impressions without trying. And the universe doesn't give that quality to many people. That's why someone with real power is now studying you like a mystery they can't solve. You're unpredictable. You're different. you're authentic. In a world full of copies, that combination is rare, and rare things always attract the eyes of those who think they've seen everything. People with authority, reputation, or influence usually believe they're immune to fascination. They think they can analyze anyone, read anyone, and move on without attachment. But you didn't let them move on. You made them stop. You made them think. You made them look again. And now they're replaying your presence in their head because it refuses to fade like everyone else's. That's the moment obsession is born, when something feels familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. When something feels safe but dangerous, known but unpredictable. And you, chosen one, sit perfectly in that middle zone. They noticed two things about you that shifted everything. Two things that changed you from background noise to the main focus. Two things that made them realize you're not just another person passing through their life. You're someone they need to understand, someone they need to watch, someone they cannot ignore. And now their obsession has already begun. And chosen one, thanks for sticking with me this far. What's happening around you isn't small, and you're going to want to hear every detail, step by step. Because once you understand why someone with real power locked onto you, everything about your journey will start making sense. If you're feeling that pull to stay until the end, that's not random. That's your intuition telling you this message was meant to reach you right now. Before we keep going, drop a comment with the number 888 if you're ready to own the attention you've earned and stop shrinking yourself for people who never had your vision. And if you feel called to support the team behind this message with a super thanks, know it keeps this mission alive. Every bit helps, whether it's tiny or huge. It fuels the work that brings you these truths the world likes to hide. And now that we've set the tone, let's move forward. Let's break this open piece by piece, because what comes next will finally explain why that powerful person can't get you out of their head. Let's get into it. Number 1. You walk like someone who doesn't owe the world an explanation. Nothing scares an insecure enemy more than the person who moves without asking anyone for permission. That line hits them right where it hurts, because it exposes the truth they never wanted anyone to say out loud. You move in a way they can't decode, can't predict, and definitely can't control. And the moment someone with serious power noticed that, everything shifted. They weren't just looking at you. They were studying you because you walk through life like someone who answers to something higher than opinions, trends, or pressure. You move like someone who already knows who they are. And that alone is enough to make both enemies and powerful observers freeze for a second longer than they're comfortable with. Picture this. Most people walk through the world like they're waiting for approval stamps. They scan every reaction, adjust their personality depending on who's watching, and bend themselves like soft metal just to fit in. Then there's you. You show up with energy that doesn't flinch. You carry yourself like a person who didn't come here to beg for space. Your presence is a metaphorical earthquake. It rattles people who depend on reading others easily. The same way a broken compass rattles a sailor who suddenly can't tell where north is. Anyone with real influence knows how to spot weakness instantly. It's how they survive. But when they look at you, their usual mental checklist breaks. They're used to scanning faces and placing people into categories, follow a pretender, threat, pawn. But you don't fit any slot. You operate on your own wavelength, and that confuses the people who think they've seen it all. And confusion is dangerous for them. It forces them to look again and again. And suddenly you're no longer just a person who walked by. You're the anomaly their system couldn't classify. And here's the part that makes them obsessed. Your strength isn't loud, performative, or forced. It's quiet. It's controlled. It's the kind of authority that doesn't need to scream to be heard. When you walk into a room, your energy says, "I'm not here to compete. I'm here because I belong." That drives your enemies crazy. They want you to shrink, apologize, second guesses yourself. But you don't. You never did. You move like someone who knows the universe has your back, even when no one else does. And that self-rust hits harder than anything you could say out loud. People with power feel it instantly. It irritates them, but it also pulls them closer. Think about this. The human brain is wired to fixate on anything that feels unpredictable. It can't let go until it finds an explanation. And you give them no easy explanation. Why aren't you desperate for approval? Why don't you react to pressure like everyone else? Why does your confidence look real instead of manufactured? You become their unanswered question, and powerful people hate unanswered questions. Let's be honest, most people crumble under judgment. They soften their voice, they change their personality, they chase acceptance like it's oxygen. But you don't move like that. You don't break character. You don't need a crowd to feel valid. Your decisions come from something deeper. Principles, intuition, self-respect. And when someone at the top sees that, it hits them hard. They've spent their life learning how to manipulate, intimidate, or charm their way through situations. But none of those tactics work on you. You stand solid. You stand grounded. You stand like someone who answers to something bigger than their opinion. That's why they're obsessed. Your independence interrupts their worldview. People like them rely on predicting behavior. But you don't follow predictable rules. You choose clarity over chaos. You choose truth over attention. You choose alignment over applause. And the world isn't used to people who choose that. So when you walk by with that "I own my space" energy, they feel it in ways they can't explain. Here's another metaphor they would hate to admit. You're like a locked door in a hallway full of open windows. Everyone else exposes themselves seeking validation. But you don't reveal your entire soul in one breath. You keep your depth internal. And powerful people can't stand locked doors. They want access. They want understanding. They want control. But you deny them all three without even trying. That's why your presence haunts them long after you leave. And chosen one, I know you sometimes wonder, why do people get intimidated when I'm just being myself? Because your normal is their unreachable. Your calm is their chaos. Your clarity is their challenge. You don't move like someone waiting to be chosen. You move like someone who already chose themselves. And that's the type of energy they can't buy, mimic, or manufacture. Let's go even deeper. Powerful people aren't actually afraid of other powerful people. They're afraid of people who can't be controlled. And when they see you act from inner authority, not external pressure, they realize they can't pull your strings. They can't tempt you with approval. They can't scare you with rejection. They can't manipulate you with attention. You're not hooked into their system. You're not waiting for their validation. You don't need their throne to feel like royalty. That's the exact moment obsession begins. Not because they want to dominate you, but because you break their formula. You expose the limits of their power. You make them question what they thought they understood about influence. When you don't act impressed by them, it flips their entire sense of identity. They're used to being the center of gravity, but suddenly your energy becomes the thing they orbit around. Your movement, your silence, your choices, all of it carries the weight of someone who knows their value. You don't explain yourself. You don't overexpress. You don't panic when misunderstood. You act like someone who knows the universe sees everything anyway. So you don't need human approval to validate your path. And that alone turns you into a force people can't ignore. You move with intention in a world full of impulsive people. You stand tall in a world full of foldable personalities. You stay real in a world full of fakes. That kind of strength is rare. And rare things always draw the eyes of those who claim they've seen everyone. So, if you've ever wondered why someone with serious power suddenly started watching you, replaying your actions, trying to figure you out, this is why. You move like someone who doesn't owe the world an explanation. You move like someone who isn't controlled by fear or approval. You move like someone who already knows they're on the right path. And that kind of energy, quiet, grounded, untouchable, creates obsession in the minds of people who aren't used to feeling powerless. That's why they noticed you. That's why they can't forget you. And that's why their attention is only growing stronger. Number 2, your presence shifts the whole atmosphere the second you arrive. Nothing terrifies an enemy more than realizing you don't need to speak to dominate the room. That's the kind of punch that knocks the wind out of anyone who ever underestimated you, because it names the exact truth they've been trying to avoid. Your presence doesn't just enter a room, it rearranges it. Not by force, not by performance, just by being you. And someone with serious power saw it happen right in front of their eyes, and that moment changed everything for them. Your existence carries weight. Not ego weight, not loud, messy, attention-hungry weight. It's the kind of weight that shifts conversations, redirects eyes, and changes the emotional temperature without you lifting a finger. Imagine this. You walk into a space, and before you even say a word, the energy recalibrates. People who were talking too loudly lower their voices without realizing it. People who were pretending suddenly feel exposed. People who were overconfident suddenly get quiet. That's not coincidence. That's gravitational pull. Another quote that fits you perfectly. Some people walk in like a breeze. You walk in like a forecast. You bring something that changes conditions. You bring clarity. You bring truth. You bring an energy that forces people to check themselves because your presence disrupts anything fake, insecure, or manipulative. Someone with power noticed that instantly. They're trained to read the invisible stuff. Tone shifts, micro-reactions, posture changes, and the second you walked in, the whole room reacted as if it had been rewritten. Imagine this. You're like a magnet thrown onto a table full of scattered metal pieces. None of them know why they're moving, but they all start drifting toward you anyway. That's what your presence does. It rearranges things without asking for permission. That effect is rare, and powerful people know the difference between fake influence and natural impact. They saw yours, and their brain immediately went into analysis mode. Here's another truth they noticed instantly. Silent authority hits harder than loud ego. Most people try to dominate a room with volume, outfit, status symbols, or forced confidence. You don't do any of that. Your authority is quiet, grounded, unbothered. It doesn't scream, it radiates. It doesn't chase attention, it attracts attention. And because you don't try to influence the room ends up shifting around you instead. That's what made them obsessed. And let's address the question you might be thinking. Why do people react to me before I even say anything? Because your energy speaks faster than your voice, and it speaks truths people can't hide from. Dishonest people suddenly feel like they're under a brighter light. Genuine people feel seen. Finally, insecure people feel the need to adjust their posture, their tone, their behavior. They become hyper-aware because your presence exposes the parts of them they try to hide. They have no idea why, but you become the mirror they didn't ask for. Imagine this. Throw a stone into a still pond. You don't need to lecture the water. The ripples form because they have to. That's you. Your energy disrupts stagnation, exposes tension, and forces reactions. And the person with real power who noticed you, they saw those ripples instantly. They noticed how every person in the room unconsciously adjusted themselves the moment you arrived. They noticed the shift in tone, the sudden pauses, the recalibration. They noticed how the atmosphere obeyed your presence without you even noticing it. Here's another quote that slices right through the enemy. You don't take control of the room takes its cues from you. People with serious power rely on reading others to maintain control. They're used to manipulating social energy, shaping conversations, or dominating attention. But you don't play that game. You don't need strategies. You don't need tricks. Your natural energy already sets the baseline. That's why they couldn't look away. Let's get into more metaphorical truth. They felt you're like a flame in a dark room. No one notices the darkness anymore. They notice you. You're like the unexpected plot twist in a story everyone thought they had figured out. You're like a song that changes the vibe of an entire party the second it starts playing. This isn't exaggeration. This is exactly how your presence hits people, and someone with serious influence recognized that. Unfiltered impact. They study energy like it's a science, and what they saw in you defied the normal rules. You don't manipulate the room, yet the room reacts. You don't seek attention, yet attention stabilizes around you. You don't expose people, yet they feel exposed in your presence. You don't try to lead, yet pressure shifts onto others when you're around. And you might wonder, why does my presence make insecure people uncomfortable? Because your authenticity shakes the foundation of their facade. Because your calm exposes their panic. Because your honesty reveals their performance. There's something else powerful people recognized in you. You create emotional gravity. They know what that looks like because they've seen influencers, leaders, and decision-makers. But the energy you carry isn't rehearsed or borrowed. It's organic. It's internal. It's not tied to a title, money, appearance, or social position. It's simply you. This is what made them pause. You don't just enter rooms, you alter the emotional landscape. It's like you're a shift in the weather. Everyone feels it, even if they don't know why. Even those in power are drawn to patterns that defy the forecast. You don't follow routines, you interrupt them. You don't meet expectations, you rewrite them. You challenge emotional dynamics, and that's something they simply can't overlook. Here's a line that lands with undeniable clarity. Your presence communicates authenticity, and authenticity is the rarest currency in any space. Those who are fake feel exposed. Those who are real feel at ease. Those who crave control feel it slipping. Those who seek truth feel awakened. You shift how people feel internally, based on what they carry within themselves. That's true influence. Not loud, not chaotic, not forced, just deeply felt. Picture a room filled with helium balloons. They drift aimlessly, colliding without direction. Then you enter like a grounded weight. Without touching a thing, everything begins to steady. That's your energy, and that's why powerful people noticed you. Now here's a question you've probably asked yourself more than once. Why do people glance your way even when you're not looking at them? Because your presence triggers instinctive awareness. Humans are wired to sense power without words. It shows up in subtle reactions. It lives in instinct, and your signal is strong. People like the one who noticed you. They're calculated, strategic, emotionally disciplined. They're not easily impressed. Yet your presence slipped past all of that. It reached their intuition. It sparked their curiosity. It challenged their pride. You became impossible to ignore. It wasn't what you wore. It wasn't how you sounded. It wasn't anything you tried to display. It was how the entire atmosphere seemed to adjust around you. The moment you arrived, they felt something shift. Something others spend years trying to imitate, yet you carry it effortlessly. A quiet force that unsettles and reorders. Your presence reshapes the emotional balance of any space you step into. It highlights truths. It exposes weaknesses. It amplifies authenticity. And powerful people are drawn to that because they're always searching for anomalies, for exceptions, for the one person who breaks the pattern. You broke the pattern simply by showing up, and now they're watching. Not out of curiosity, but obsession. Because someone with power isn't used to feeling the room shift in your direction instead of theirs. Your presence rearranges the room, and they know it. They feel it, and they cannot ignore it anymore. Number 3. You play chess while everyone else swings wildly. Nothing scares a chaotic enemy more than the person they can't provoke. This section hits the veins of your power, chosen one. In a world where everyone is addicted to reacting, you've become the anomaly. You don't snap back. You don't panic text. You don't jump at every emotional spark, like the rest of the population running on caffeine and insecurity. You operate with a level of restraint that feels dangerous because it is. It exposes how undisciplined everyone else truly is. Imagine this. Everyone around you is throwing punches in the dark, hoping to land something. Meanwhile, you're standing still, letting them tire themselves out, while you calculate the one move that actually matters. That's why someone with serious power locked onto you. They recognize the signature of a controlled mind, one that doesn't flinch at pressure or get baited into emotional traps. Another truth they felt instantly. Your silence carries more force than their shouting ever will. While the world spins like a busted ceiling fan, you remain centered, and that drives people insane because restraint is misunderstood. Weak minds think restraint equals softness, but powerful minds know restraint equals precision. You're not quiet because you're scared. You're quiet because you're choosing your moment. And that choice is what unsettles everyone watching. Here's something else they noticed. Your pauses aren't empty. They're strategic. When you don't reply instantly, they wonder why. When you don't react emotionally, they wonder what you know. When you take your time, they start doubting themselves instead of you. That's mastery. That's psychological pressure. Without lifting a finger. Imagine a storm, wind screaming, trees bending, debris flying, and right in the center there's the calm eye. Still, unbothered, untouchable. That's you. People expect chaos to shake you, but you don't move. Powerful individuals see that and think, who taught them to hold this kind of control? And the answer is, no one. You learned it through experience, through pain, through choosing growth over impulse. If you've ever wondered, why do people keep testing me? It's because they're trying to locate your breaking point and failing. Your restraint exposes their lack of discipline. Your calm highlights their instability. Your precision reveals their sloppiness. That's why they're obsessed. You mastered what the world avoids, control over yourself. And nothing is more powerful than that. Number 4, your instincts see through people faster than their best systems. Nothing rattles a calculated enemy more than someone who reads them before they speak. This is where your power gets almost unfair. People with influence rely on data, predictions, trend charts, and expert advisors. They trust numbers more than intuition because numbers don't lie. At least, that's what they think. Then they meet you, and suddenly all their formulas start glitching. Your intuition outruns their intelligence. Like a lightning bolt outruns a streetlight trying to catch up. You read people in seconds. You sense motives before the conversation even starts. You pick up patterns others need months of evidence to confirm. You're the kind of person who walks into a room and instantly feels what's off. Who's lying, who's insecure, and who's hiding something behind that fake smile. And the craziest part, you don't even try. Your mind just works like that. Imagine this. Two people are staring at the same puzzle. They're flipping pieces, analyzing shapes, overthinking every detail. Meanwhile, you walk by, glance at it once, and already see the final picture. That's you. That's the part that terrifies them. Your insight bends time. You get to the truth before their analysis even starts downloading. Another quote that slices right into the heart of this truth. Your intuition is a radar. Their intelligence is a calculator. And calculators can't detect threats. Radars can. People in power don't like what they can't predict. They like control. They like being the smartest one in every room. But when they watch you operate, they see a different intelligence entirely. One that doesn't wait for proof. One that doesn't need permission. One that doesn't follow logic, yet keeps being right. And chosen one, you've probably wondered, how do I know things before I'm told? Because you're sensitive to the micro-signals others ignore. Tone shifts, delayed reactions, gut feelings, emotional patterns. You're reading the truth beneath the surface, while everyone else is still stuck on the surface. Imagine this. A chess master planning 12 moves ahead, thinking he's untouchable. But you're reading his facial micro-twitches, the tension in his hands, the tiny moments of hesitation he thought he hid. You're playing the person, not the game. And that's why you win. This is why someone with serious power is obsessed. They built their life on strategy, but you keep beating strategy with instinct. You're unpredictable in the most threatening way. Not reckless, but aware. Not impulsive, but alert. Not lucky, but tuned in. Your intuition isn't a guess, it's a weapon, and they know it. They can't replicate it, they can't explain it, they can't outthink it. That's why they're watching you so closely, because your instincts keep seeing the truth faster than their intelligence ever will. Number 5. You stay solid even when the world thinks you're not looking. Nothing humiliates a manipulator more than a person they can't buy, bend, or break. This is where your power becomes undeniable. Chosen one. In a world that flips its morals depending on who's watching, you stay anchored. Your integrity doesn't switch off when the crowd leaves. Your values don't dissolve when things get hard. And that consistency hits powerful people like a slap they weren't prepared for. People with influence are used to loyalty that costs money, kindness that hides motives, and honesty that evaporates under pressure. But then they meet you, and suddenly the entire blueprint they rely on collapses, because you don't move based on reward. You don't do the right thing for applause. You don't shift your principles depending on who benefits. You are the same person in the spotlight and in the shadows. That alone makes people with power stop and rethink everything. Imagine this. Two people are walking through a maze. One takes shortcuts every time they think no one is watching. The other follows the path correctly, even when alone. The first person gets to the end faster. Sure, but the second person, they actually earned it. And that difference is exactly what separates you from them. Powerful people know shortcuts. You know standards. And standards last longer. Another quote that slices right into your truth. Character is what you protect. Reputation is what protects you. Most people only care about the second. Someone with serious power saw your character before they ever saw your reputation. They watched how you acted in unguarded moments. They noticed how you treated people who had nothing to offer you. They saw the choices you made when there was no benefit attached. And that's when they realized you're different. Imagine this. They throw bait at everyone around them. Status, attention, opportunity, and people grab it immediately, exposing their hunger. But you didn't even blink. You didn't reach. You didn't sell yourself. You didn't compromise. You stayed rooted. That shook them because power is used to controlling people. But you showed them you can't be controlled, even with everything on the table. You become unpredictable in the most honorable way. They don't know what you'll choose next because you're not operating for reward. You're operating from principle. And that's a level of freedom most people never reach. If you've ever wondered, why do people test my boundaries? It's because they're trying to find your price. They're trying to see where you fold. But you don't fold. You don't exchange your soul for convenience. You don't modify your truth for comfort. Your moral compass points the same direction, even when the world tries to tilt you. And that drives them wild. Imagine this: a beam of light in a room full of mirrors. Every mirror bends the light. You don't. You remain the source, untouched by reflection. That's you. Everyone else plays angles. You play truth. Power respects that. Not because it's useful, but because it's rare. They've met thousands of talented people, ambitious people, smart people. But integrity, that's almost extinct. And seeing someone who still carries it, lives, it bleeds it. They can't help but be obsessed. Your consistency becomes your quiet form of dominance. Your principles become your shield. Your honesty becomes your leverage. And the one who noticed you, they realized something frightening and fascinating at the same time. You cannot be bought. You cannot be bribed. You cannot be manipulated. Your values are fixed. Your spirit is anchored. Your ethics are non-negotiable. They've never met someone who stays honest, even when unseen. That's why they're drawn to you. That's why they respect you, and that's why they can't get you out of their mind. Number 6. You read their soul before they finish their sentence. Nothing breaks an ego faster than being seen by someone they can't fool. This is the part that makes powerful people shift in their seat when you walk in. They're used to being the ones who read everyone else. They're used to being the smartest mind in the room. They're used to decoding motives and controlling outcomes. But then they meet you, and suddenly the roles flip so fast, it makes their confidence wobble. You see through people with a speed that feels almost unfair. One glance, one tone shift, one micro-expression, and you already know who's bluffing, who's insecure, who's hiding something, and who's pretending to be stronger than they are. You don't need long conversations. You don't need proof. You don't need time to analyze. Your intuition slices straight through the surface like a hot knife through ice, and they feel that cut. Imagine this. Someone walks in wearing the perfect mask. Everyone else in the room believes it. The mask is polished, practiced, flawless. But the moment you look at them, their mask starts cracking because you're not looking at the costume. You're looking at the fear underneath. You're looking at the insecurity behind the confidence. You're looking at the motive behind the smile. And they know you saw it. Another quote that nails your power. You don't read people, you expose them. People who rely on manipulation hate that. People who thrive on secrets get nervous. People who hide behind charm start fidgeting, because you're the one person they can't mislead, and that destroys their sense of control.
Imagine this. They thought they were playing poker, but you're watching their pupils, their breath pattern, their hesitation. You're playing the player, not the game. That's why you win before the cards hit the table. And chosen one. You might wonder, why do people get uncomfortable when I haven't said anything? Because being around someone who sees too much is intimidating. It forces people to confront their own truth. Your perception is a spotlight. Your insight is a blade. Your awareness is a lie detector they never agreed to stand in front of. Powerful people find that terrifying and addictive, because while everyone else is fooled by their persona, you're reading the real version of them in seconds. You are unpredictable because you can't be deceived. You are untouchable because their tricks don't work on you. You are fascinating because you see everything they try to hide. That's why they can't stop watching you. You see through people too quickly for comfort, and that is your advantage. Number 7. You can't be steered, bought, or played. Manipulators panic when they meet someone who doesn't fall for the tricks that worked on everyone else. This one hits the enemy right in their pride, chosen one. Because manipulation is the oldest power move in the world. It's how insecure people feel strong, how weak minds pretend to be strategic, and how fake leaders maintain control. They guilt you, they flatter you, they pressure you, they twist stories, they weaponize emotion. They spread illusions. And it works on almost everyone, but not on you. You're unmanipulable in a world built on strings. You don't take the bait. You don't flinch when someone tries to guilt trip you. You don't melt when someone compliments you with hidden motives. You don't fold under forced urgency or emotional traps. Your mind is too aligned, too steady, too awake. And people, especially powerful ones, notice that instantly. Imagine this. Someone pulls out all their best tricks. The guilt angle, the sugar-coated praise, the fake emergency, the emotional performance, the silent treatment, the charm, the pressure. It's their full deck of manipulation. They expect you to react like everyone else, confused, desperate, or emotionally hijacked. But you stay calm. You stay observant. You stay in control. That's the moment their stomach drops. Another truth that slaps them sideways. You can't manipulate someone who isn't hungry for your approval. That's your superpower. You don't chase validation. You don't crave acceptance. You don't rearrange your identity to keep the peace. And you definitely don't let someone else's emotions dictate your next move. Your refusal to react makes manipulators feel powerless. They hate that your silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. They hate that your calm is not confusion, it's clarity. They hate that you walk away instead of getting tangled in their drama web. That's why your presence alone exposes them. Their tricks bounce off you like cheap arrows hitting armor. Imagine this. A puppeteer trying to pull strings, only to realize you're not connected to any of them. You cut those invisible threads a long time ago. You built yourself on logic, intuition, and self-respect, not on the emotional traps other people consider normal communication and chosen one. If you've ever wondered, why do manipulators get irritated with me so fast? Because you don't play their game. You ruin it. Your clarity ruins their confusion. Your boundaries ruin their access. Your emotional independence ruins their control. People with real power don't fear loud rebels. They fear the calm minds they can't sway. And that's you. You don't follow the script. You don't respond to their cues. You don't obey the emotional choreography they expect. You're unmanipulable. Not because you're cold, but because you're aware. Not because you're stubborn, but because you're self-governed.
Not because you're detached, but because you're disciplined. That's why they watch you so closely. That's why you shake their confidence. That's why someone with actual influence became obsessed. Your independence is revolutionary in a world addicted to control, and they've never seen anything like it. Number 8. You turned your scars into credentials they can't compete with. Nothing intimidates an enemy more than someone who turned their pain into power instead of excuses. This is the part of you they never saw coming. Most people carry their pain like a limp, dragging it behind them, using it as a reason to shrink, quit, or crumble. But you did the opposite. You carried your pain like a qualification, like something earned, something forged, something that sharpened you instead of shattering you. And when someone with serious power noticed that, it stunned them, because they're used to people who break easily. You didn't imagine this. 2 people go through the same storm. One comes out drenched, shaking, complaining. The other walks out soaked, but stronger, eyes clearer, steps heavier with purpose. That second person is you. You didn't escape pain. You outgrew it. You didn't run from the fire. You learned how to walk through it without losing yourself. And that evolution is rare. Powerful people recognize that kind of resilience instantly because it can't be faked or copied. Here's a quote that fits your essence perfectly. Your wounds didn't weaken you. They taught you where you no longer break. That's what fascinates them. They see someone who has every reason to be bitter, yet isn't. Someone who has every reason to fold, yet stands taller. Someone who has every reason to shut down, yet became more aware, more perceptive, more strategic. Pain didn't drain your power. It refined it. It sharpened your intuition, deepened your emotional intelligence, and gave you an insight that can't be learned from books or mentors. Imagine this. Your scars are like ancient blueprints. They hold lessons, not excuses. They hold history, not baggage. They hold wisdom that comes from surviving things most people would never recover from. And you carry that wisdom quietly, naturally, without showing off. That's what makes you an enigma. Pain didn't just pass through you, it transformed you, and people in power can't manipulate someone who has already met their darkest moments and refused to stay there. And you might wonder, why do people seem confused by how strong I am after everything I've been through? Because strength after suffering is rare. Most people collapse. You rebuilt. Here's another truth that hits deep. Fear can be exploited. Insecurity can be exploited. But evolution cannot. You evolved. You upgraded. You grew a mind that sees deeper, a heart that feels smarter, and a spirit that doesn't collapse when pressure rises. That makes you untouchable in ways that powerful people can't explain. They can intimidate fragile egos, but not someone who has already faced worse and walked out alive. Imagine this. You're like a blade that's been hammered, burned, cooled, and reshaped. Every hit made you sharper. Every impact made you better. And now the person with power sees the finished weapon, and they know exactly what it took to create it. That's why they can't ignore you. Your pain is not a weakness. It's your certification. It's your backbone. It's your evidence of endurance. Someone with serious power looked at you and realized you are not someone who folds. You are not someone who quits. You are not someone who stays broken. You took what was meant to destroy you and made it part of your strength. And that kind of resilience, that kind of emotional armor, that kind of evolution, it's impossible for them to overlook, and even harder for them to forget. Number 9. You don't shrink for power. Power shrinks for you. Nothing humiliates a self-proclaimed powerhouse like someone who stands tall in a space they expected you to kneel in. This is the part of you that shakes people at the top, chosen one, because most of the world collapses under authority.
They make themselves small. They whisper. They tiptoe. They try to impress. But you do the opposite. You expand. Your spine straightens. Your energy sharpens. You walk into rooms built to intimidate, and somehow you become the one who shifts the dynamic. And the person with real power who noticed you. Oh, they felt that shift like a punch to their ego. Imagine this. Everyone else enters a room like they're trying not to get in trouble. Meanwhile, you walk in like the universe stamped access granted on your back. Not arrogant, not loud, just grounded, present, certain. That certainty disrupts hierarchies in ways they don't want to admit. It forces powerful people to question themselves, because your energy doesn't say, "I hope I'm enough." It says, "I already am." Another quote that slices through their pride. You don't compete with power, you make power recognize you. That's exactly what happens when you show up. You don't shrink to fit someone else's ego. You don't bend your voice, your identity, or your worth just to keep the peace. You stand firm. And that steadiness is dangerous in the most impressive way. People who depend on intimidation realize instantly that their tactics bounce off you. They can't overwhelm you. They can't silence you. They can't make you doubt yourself. And you might wonder, why do authoritative people act weird around me? Because your presence exposes the truth. They're not as powerful as they pretend to be. Imagine this. A lion walks into a room full of animals pretending to be lions. Masks fall off, roars get quiet, eyes look away. Not because you intimidate them with force, but because your authenticity exposes their performance. You aren't trying to dominate, you simply refuse to shrink. Your energy commands without demanding. It fills space without stealing it. It asserts itself without aggression. That's why the person with real power stared at you longer than they meant to. Not because they wanted to overpower you, but because they couldn't. You are steady in the face of hierarchy. You are grounded in the presence of influence. You are equal where others make themselves small. Your spirit doesn't shrink around power. It rises, and power can't help but rise with it. Number 10. You move like someone who wasn't meant to be ordinary. Nothing terrifies the world more than a person who walks like their future is already written. This part of you is what shakes powerful people, the hardest chosen one. Because ambition is common. Everyone wants something. Everyone chases something. Everyone strives. But you don't chase. You carry. You move with a frequency that doesn't feel like ambition. It feels like inevitability. Like the universe placed a stamp on your existence that says, this one was built for impact. And people with power can sense it instantly. Imagine this. Two people are walking toward the same door. One hesitates, checks the sign, wonders if they belong there. The other just walks right through, because something inside them already knows the door will open. You're the second person. Your path doesn't feel forced. It feels aligned. That alignment creates a signal, a vibration, an aura that powerful people recognize before you even speak. Another quote that mirrors your energy. You don't walk toward purpose, you carry purpose with you. That's the part they can't manipulate, can't measure, and definitely can't unsee, because your presence doesn't feel accidental. It feels intentional, like something bigger. Call it intuition, calling, or momentum is guiding you step by step. You don't move like someone trying to become something. You move like someone who already is something, and the world is just catching up.
Imagine this: a radio picking up a frequency others can't tune into. That's you. Your spirit broadcasts a signal that only certain people can hear. And the ones who can, they get pulled in without understanding why. They feel your trajectory before you even make the move. It's not loud or dramatic. It's steady, consistent, undeniable, and chosen one. You might wonder, why do people assume I'm going places even when I'm quiet? Because your energy doesn't whisper potential, it announces it. Another truth that hits the enemy hard: destiny doesn't chase attention, it draws it. Powerful individuals are surrounded by ambition all the time. It's something they recognize instantly. But destiny is something else entirely. Destiny doesn't chase, doesn't plead, doesn't bargain. It simply reveals itself in its own time. And when someone watches you move with that kind of quiet certainty, it unsettles them. Because they understand they can shape ambition, but they have no control over what is meant to happen. Picture a comet crossing the night sky. It doesn't try to glow. It doesn't seek attention. It just follows its path, and everyone ends up looking anyway. That's who you are. You're not trying to impress, yet attention finds you. You're not asking to be seen, yet people feel your presence before it fully shows itself. You operate on a frequency that can't be taught. It's something you carry within. Your energy isn't about hype. It's not performance, and it's not ego. It's alignment, forward motion, and truth. Those with power don't fear competition. They fear what's inevitable. Competitors can be overcome, but destiny cannot. And you carry yourself like your future is already set in motion. You move like everything has already begun. There's a certainty about you that unsettles anyone still trying to find their way. That's why you were noticed. That's why you're hard to explain. And that's why they can't stop observing you. You're not chasing destiny, you are living it. Your path isn't random, chosen one. Someone with real influence recognized you for a reason. And now you're starting to understand why. Every quality you hold, every shift you create, every instinct you trust has made you unforgettable. This is your confirmation. You were never ordinary. You never have been. And if this message reached you exactly where it needed to, hit the like button if you haven't yet. And if you're not part of this community, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the truth the universe keeps placing in your path.